Recording in progress.
Welcome to our agenda and priorities meeting for April the 4th, and we will call the meeting to order. It's now 3 o'clock. CEO Becker, do you have any additions, deletions? Okay, I have one addition to the agenda. Will be item 3.9, the industrial lands. So I will ask somebody to please adopt the amended agenda. Thank you, Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barclay, I would make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. So first up, I would like to welcome Kayla Law, the Stakeholder Relations Manager with Fortis, who's going to do a presentation to us today. So Kayla, if you'd like to come up and just sit at the front desk here and turn the mic on. And thank you to all of the Fortis team for coming today.
Perfect. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Barclay and Council and Administration for having Fortis here today. We're going to touch on a few things. I think everybody's had an opportunity to see the presentation early last week. So if anybody has any questions before I start, feel free to ask it or ask it while we go through. I'd like to introduce our area manager, Dave Baumhoff. Want to say anything?
Hi. I'm the area manager. Work in Red Deer right now, but Innisfail is part of our area. So for the operations side, anyway. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt as you see fit. I'm gonna kind of just highlight through the presentation and go from there. Okay, so, maybe this will work. Worked a moment ago. It is a new Sway presentation. It's not a PowerPoint, so it's a little bit different than what we're used to. But with new technology, we will learn together. That's okay. Just take a look. Thanks, Kara. All right. So if we just, I've already done the introductions. A little bit about our partnerships in Innisfail is we are a platinum sponsor at the Innisfail Chamber for their trade show. You guys might have seen us last weekend. I know I saw a couple of you guys there, so thanks for stopping by. We also do the annual food bank donation, and we're active in the Chamber of Commerce. We have 1,100 employees and over 300 contractors in the area, and we're in over 240 communities. So we live and work in the community of Innisfail. And yeah, so if you want to just skip to the next slide. And if you click right on the map, the dark blue is our service area. So that's all of us. And then the next slide, please. So what does it mean to be regulated? Basically, we are regulated by the AUC, and our rates and terms and conditions are approved by the AUC, which is the Alberta Utilities Commission. Next slide. Where we fall in the industry overview is And if you want to just scroll down a little bit, so there's generation, transmissions, and then it goes to the substation, and it's delivered to the distribution lines and poles and wires, which is us, and then to your retailer. And that's where we fall. Do you want to add to that, Dave? Anything there?
No, that's our impact to the community is what you guys see mostly. The retail side is what your customers see as far as the billing goes, but what we can do is what our assets out in the streets. Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to jump to the franchise agreement. Some of you may be aware of it. I'll give you a little bit of history. Prior to 2001, we would negotiate one-off agreements. This was consuming for all parties. So in 2012, ATCO, Fortis, and the Alberta Utilities Commission came together to standardize the franchise agreement. In 2015, we streamlined the approval process and put it into action. Next slide, please. So what is the franchise agreement? It provides a central electric distribution service so we can operate and maintain the distribution system and use of municipal right-of-ways. So in 2013, we signed a 10-year agreement with Innisfail. The expiration, sorry, I'll just get you to jump if you just click on the, thank you. Oh, the one prior to this. Yes, thank you. The expiration of this franchise, the first 10-year portion, comes up September 2023. It is our duty to inform administration and council that it is expiring. So this is us coming to you for the 5-year next step. And we do need a response by March of 2023. So the benefits of the franchise agreement is long-term partnership, service level commitments, that includes streetlights, and joint use of facilities. So if you want to use our poles to put up signs and small connected devices, we can evaluate that, and you can use our facilities for that. Reduce liability and Schedule B if you want to go down that road for revenue. Next. So the franchise fee is applied to distribution and transmission only. I know in my previous role, I dealt with the franchise fee calculators and Todd for many years. So the franchise fee for Innisfail is currently set at 15%. 100% of the collection is flowed right back to Innisfail, so Fortis does not make any money off of it. And out of our 163 signed franchise agreements, 135 of them collect a franchise fee. Next slide. Linear taxes we collect on behalf of the municipality as well. Again, 100% flow back to the municipality. Next slide, please. Next slide. I think you got to exit out of here, sorry. And then just scroll down. Okay. You want to take reliability?
Yeah, I'll take reliability. SAIDI and SAFE, these are industry acronyms that we use across North America, and they System Average Interruption Duration Index. Essentially, what that means is how often does the power go out, and then how long is the power out for our customers. So the lower the number, the better. You can see that in 2018, our SAIDI numbers were 1.37. In 2019, it was cut basically in half to 0.76. In 2020, again to 0.75. So trending in the right direction. Basically, what that says is the town of Innisfail is getting more reliable as far as the electrical distribution. In the middle of that slide, we kind of look at the Fortis Alberta average and then the Canadian average. And as you can see from 2018 to 2020, again, we exceed the Canadian average, and Fortis Alberta is a leader in North America when it comes to SAIDI and safety numbers. Part of that, one thing I wanted to bring up was the last year we've introduced distribution automation within this town of Innisfil, and what that is technology that does our fault locating. So if there's a fault on the system, it redistributes the load to impact the least amount of customers, and so it'll close electrical points and open different electrical points to isolate the power so that it impacts the least amount of customers. And we've seen that benefit. Basically, it speeds up the time that we can get a PLT out to the site enough to execute and problem solve. So that's been introduced into the town. I think it was commissioned early last year.
All right, so streetlights is always a big conversation for municipalities. We take pride in our SLAs, which is, I actually know exactly what this means and I'm gapping it. Stan. Service level agreement, thank you. We use way too many acronyms in our world, and I apologize when we say it because it just comes natural to us. Part of the franchise agreement is that we have to meet these service level agreements, and if we don't, we pay a penalty. In 2020, not 2021, this hasn't been updated since, there were 21 lights out reported in the town of Innisfil. They can be called in, or they can be on our Outage website. We were able to fix all 21 of those lights within the 14-day period, so there was no penalty during that period. And so we always encourage people, if there's a light out, feel free to go on the website or give us a call and we'll get that fixed right away. So, next slide. This is our outage detail slide. It states all the different outages of what has happened in 2020 for the town of Innisfil and throughout to 2018. So just you can take a look at that. Next. One more, please. This is the streetlight inventory slide. So this is all the streetlights as of December 31st, 2020 in your community. There's just under 1,100 streetlights. And so this helps us manage our inventory and go from there. Next. Site count. So this is by rate code. So as you can see, most of your sites are residential, and you have just under 4,000 sites as of 2021. Consumption, next slide. For consumption, for kilowatt hours, your largest customers or residents are your large rate 63 customers. They take up the majority, and so if we jump to franchise fees, you'll see a common point there of who pays into the franchise fees the most. And with this, in 2021, the town of Innisfil collected just over 1.2 million. And for linear tax, this was collected in 2021, just over 45,000. Next slide, please. So basically the next steps that what we're asking from council and administration is to review the franchise renewal and sign off for the next 5 years. So any questions?
Okay, well, thank you, Kayla. Question, you had a slide there kind of showing, I guess, the infrastructure that you have in the community. Like, what's the total value of the assets that you have here, approximately? Do you know?
I can't answer that. We'd have to do a full evaluation because there's more than just streetlights.
Yeah, I realize that.
Yeah, I don't have that answer, but I can.
Would you be able to get it and send it to CEO Becker? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and thanks for the very informative presentation. I want to change the discussion a little bit from franchise fees to distribution charges. And the question that I have, and I think maybe I heard that the Utilities Commission, they review those
Yes.
distribution charges.
They do.
In that review, are they submitted by Fortis? Like, do you do your calculation
We
and
do.
submit?
Yeah, so what we do is we go through our regulatory department and they evaluate what our needs are to maintain and develop the system to keep it working and progressing, and then we apply to the AUC for approval.
Okay, in that evaluation then, what do they look at? Because when I look at my bill, and I can only talk about my bill, those rates, those distribution charges seem to change on a monthly basis. Is that due to energy consumption? Is it?
So there's a number of things there. So there's balancing pool, QTAR, which is quarterly transmission adjustment rider, different fees within it that will fluctuate month to month depending on if it's a credit or a, okay, sorry.
No,
Okay,
Like, there's a rider that's attached to the quarterly transmission adjustment, and it can be a credit or a debit.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you.
And it's rarely a credit, but sometimes it does happen that way. And, I can speak louder if you want. Actually, oh,
Yeah, the Zoom, there's people on Zoom cannot.
yeah, the riders are either debit or credit. And that is 100% outside of our control. When we make an application to the commission for our annual distribution tariff fees, we look at a lot of things. We look at how many staff we have, the cost of the staffing, our infrastructure, like our facilities, our IT, our vehicles. And then we look at how much capital investment we're going to make into the system by replacing old power lines, old poles, underground conductor, rejuvenization programs that we have, just replacing the old with the new. So all of those numbers get thrown into that mix. And then the commission, that's a part of our phase one application. Then our phase two is, then the commission decides based upon our input is which customer rate class are going to be paying for that. So if it's a large capital investment in our industrial sector, then the rate 63 will go up a little bit more. The residential may not see a bunch of that, but if it's the underground residential system throughout our service area, the residential customers may see a tiny bit of an increase in theirs because that's more encompassing. But so there's two phases to that tariff collection process or determination process. And it's all done by the commission. The commission has hearings. There's lots of interveners going back and forth. There's lots of information requests that the interveners ask us to provide to the commission so they can respond to their interveners. It's a very lengthy process. Sometimes it could take up to a couple of years to get a rate application from start to approved rates. Normally in June, we'll go with an interim rate. And then if the rate is not approved, then we credit it back if we over collected, or we can add more if we've under collected.
okay, thank you. I just have one more question, Mayor Barkle, if I can. What's the difference between a distribution charge and a transmission charge?
The transmission is the large structures that take the power from the substations to the distribution system. That's the Alberta Electric System Operator. That's the money that they collect to manage there's transmission facility operators like Altalink, City of Red Deer, NMAX, EPCOR, ATCO Electric, all own transmission facilities. They're managed by the Alberta Electric System Operator. The distribution charges are specific to the distribution company that supplies your needs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Sounds complicated.
It's very complicated. It is. It's a very complex system, and so thank you, Stan, for answering that.
Councillor Bates?
So I'll limit to the one question. As you look forward with all of the changes that we see coming from federal everywhere, what's our infrastructure look like in its capability to do the electrification of vehicles, et cetera? Yeah, I think I got my point across. What's the status and what do we need to do?
You want to take this?
Sure. I meet with our, it's a system planner for the area, and what he does is he looks at the 5-year, 15-year, 20-year plan for towns like Innisfail and Sylvan Lake and Rocky Mountain House. So we go through these assessments to make sure that at certain rates of growth, how sustainable is our electrical system? How much can the substation supply before we have to start making infrastructure changes with substations, with the circuits that are coming in, and then with the distribution right from the house to the transformer. So that kind of loading there. So right now they're studying the impact that specifically EVs have on the electrical grid and what it'll take to increase our infrastructure from the transformers basically to the houses.
I guess what I kind of look at, just as a citizen, I live in a relatively new neighborhood, about 15 years old, and of course we have neighborhoods here that are quite old. I can't believe that some of the older ones, and I'm not sure my newer one has adequate infrastructure in it, and the older ones might be better off because they're above ground. You can actually...
Yeah, the overhead.
So I'm just wondering, the capability of actually, because I think the latest thing I heard was 2026, 20% EVs. That came out last week.
Yeah.
That's...
Our choke point is the wire size from the house to the transformer. So the rest of the grid, that's where we see the impact happening the quickest. So right now, all new subdivisions are upgraded to bigger cable size. Houses need to have that, and what we're looking at, we're piloting things in Airdrie on how to replace the infrastructure in these subdivisions to upgrade, to anticipate that increased load on the electrical system.
Concerns me because I know I took pictures and my service runs right under my concrete driveway. Thank you.
Mayor Barkley, thank you. I'm curious about, from just an town of Innisfail perspective, does Fortis then actually own virtually every piece of infrastructure in our community relative to transformers and poles, et cetera? So if I might buy my power from somebody else, but Fortis actually owns all of the infrastructure. And then as we continue to develop lands for residential or even industrial, the contract that we have with you then stipulates that you will continue to provide the infrastructure, that we don't have an opportunity to, okay.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, just so everybody at Zoom can see me nodding my head. I'm like,
That's
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's actually nobody that can see you.
Oh,
They just listen
okay.
in, so. So yeah, you have to talk.
Fair
so.
enough. Thank
So
you.
do you see communities like that are taking on their own power generation at all, or?
No, actually, what we're seeing more than not is communities are getting away from it. They are going with the fact that they're not the experts. They don't want to run their own system, and they are.
It's complex.
It's very complex, and it's a lot, and that's not the business that they're in. So we are seeing more of the opposite, is where municipalities are looking to sell their infrastructure. So
You mentioned, Kayla, in the presentation at one point at Schedule B.
yes.
What is that?
So Schedule B is part of the franchise agreement, and within it is we can use it to borrow money to the municipality to fund infrastructure, and we basically work as a lender.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you again, Mayor Barkley. Following up on Councillor Bates's question around EVs, are you working with developers? And the reason I ask that is we have a few areas in town that they're open for subdivision. And, you know, there's always developers coming and going. And we talk about the choke size and the wire size from the transformer to the house and whatever it takes in the house. Have you been having meetings or discussing with the builders that when in these new subdivisions, let's look out 10, 15, 20
Yes.
years?
Yeah, absolutely, we are. And just on our side is we are recommending that the larger cable be put into the subdivisions so it can be utilized going forward for EVs and such. And the other thing is we've been working a lot with different municipalities because there's a number of grants out there for EVs and finding locations that are suitable for it that won't have the exorbitant costs of putting an EV in or an EV charging station in, because we recognize that not every house is going to be equipped to have an EV charger on it, that it'll be just like a gas station. You'll have EV chargers throughout high trafficked areas.
Thank you.
EVs and Starbucks, right? That's
Yes.
that's what I've seen lately, is
Yeah.
Starbucks teaming up with EVs, or EV chargers. Anything else? Or CEO Becker?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just a question, Kayla and Dave, on the franchise agreement. Back in 2012, as you mentioned, the AUMA at the time,
Yes.
worked with ATCO, Fortis, and municipalities to develop the franchise fee template. Do you see any changes on the new round of franchise agreements? And it goes into Councillor Bates' comments on the new drive for technologies associated with energy. So do you see any changes to the franchise fee agreement and its structure? And
So certainly in the next 10 years, we will evaluate what worked, what the municipalities need going forward, and we will ask essentially like what worked, what didn't work, what can we do better? And when we develop the new agreement, we will adjust it as needed. So absolutely, we will consider, you know, it's 20 years old, what's new and exciting. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today, and to you and Dave and Stan. So I'm sure we will talk in the future and go from there. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I'll just ask Karen Bradbury to come forward. We'll move into 3.2 and FCSS and age-friendly presentation. Oh, and Sandy, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is, our presentation today is to provide an overview of our 2021 year in review for FCSS. And these were the council objectives up to this point. So any questions you have along the way, just feel free to jump in. Oh, no, that's okay. All right, so some of the programs that we've been involved with or connected with, and you're going to see a listing of a wide variety of things, programs and initiatives. Sometimes we're not the one necessarily spearheading, but we may be involved in a partnership role of some kind. So Movers and Groovers, that was a program that was started probably 5 years ago, and as of last year we actually transitioned that to the primary care network. Brad with the primary care network is the one that leads that group, so he's supporting that, and you can see that the participant numbers even on Zoom and prior to the cancellations for COVID in person and stuff, so there's still some great participation in that program. We will continue, so our role with that, so the partnership is between now the primary care network and recreation for spacing, for securing space, and we will continue to support any initiatives that come forward for a request for preventative programming. The CHIPS program, that was a program for parents with children 0 to 5 years old. And that program transitioned to the primary care network as of 2020. The Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, this is a program that we've been running, I think, before I came 6.5 years ago, but it's just in the last 2 to 3 years that we've actually started recording stats on this and becoming part of that outcome measures piece. So in 2020, our stats were, we have 2 volunteers that are just fabulous, and they completed 205 returns last year. And the total refunds and recoveries from that was $148,923 coming back to our community, or, you know, neighboring communities, because sometimes we support some of our neighboring communities as well that don't have this program. So that's pretty significant. Seniors Week, we did treats for the week. We weren't able to meet in person, so we just came up with another strategic way. We had 750 treats that were given out in partnership with local businesses. That was really well received and just very positive in the community. Volunteer Week, we gave out 100 bags with some different items like mask, sanitizer, some treats, thank you card, that kind of thing. And we did that in partnership with AHS as well. Eprep Courses, so Sandy and I got trained in Eprep in November, I believe it was, and we held our first session in November. So we've done 3 sessions. Our goal is to do a minimum of 9 sessions a year, and we've facilitated 3 and trained right now 14 individuals in just raising awareness on being prepared for an emergency or disaster. The positive ticketing program, right now the stats that I have from our peace officers is that 80 positive tickets were given out. We don't have the RCMP numbers yet. That's really great though, because the goal there is to really build positive relationships between our youth and our law enforcement and our peace officers for sure. So that's been really good. We've got some really great buy-in this year. We kind of took a little bit of a different approach. Instead of just approaching local business and saying, can you donate, because it's been so tough, we actually made a commitment as FCSS to purchase so many certificates, and then the business could donate what they felt they could. The response was amazing, and we've got, I think, about 300 different certificates or items donated for that program for this year. So that was really good. Kids That Have Stress Too, that's a program that we have volunteers that work with our local schools that facilitate this program in our schools. Our volunteers are actually just able to get in now. So our main contact in the school with the YES program, which is funded through FCSS, he facilitated that program in 2021 with all of the grade 3 students. And in 2022, the grades that will be connected is grades 1 and grade 3 classrooms. So all grade 1s, all grade 3s. All grade 1s and all grade 8s, sorry, pardon me. So the grade 8 class is actually almost finished, all grade 8s, and I think the grade 1s will be later in this year. Yeah. Oh, they did start? Okay, perfect. So, and he has more energy than I know what to do with. If you think I have energy, meet Brian. Volunteer Connector database. So we continue to encourage individuals to go and sign up if they're interested in volunteer opportunities. We also encourage our local organizations to sign up, and because they can create their own volunteer posts, and individuals who are interested in their opportunity can actually apply directly to them. So then it removes us from being kind of the middle person and coordinating that. So some of the things that we've recruited for this year or supported was Let's Connect, needing volunteers for that. Pass the 2 campaign, Twiddle Muffs and Sensory Squares. And I have to say, the response was amazing. We have individuals that, so the Let's Connect is the calendars that we do. I don't do it, I'm one of the partners, but we do Zoom programming for older adults and seniors. That has just exploded. We have people from Edmonton that join us because they get to see their parents involved in programming. We have volunteers, we have a jazz musician from Calgary, for instance, who does live music for us. We have someone from Buenos Aires that does piano concerts. We have someone from BC that does. So it's really, really cool how that's worked out. We put out a call for toques because we were noticing individuals in the community during the very extreme cold that didn't have some of those. We had over 150, I believe, that was distributed to the community, so people volunteered for that. Twiddle muffs and sensory squares, that is items that are made for individuals that are living with dementia or other cognitive impairments. So we've had about 150. We have two groups in Calgary that donate to this faithfully. We've had twiddle muffs come from Ontario, Nova Scotia, BC. So it's really cool when you see how, and that's where that volunteer connector database came in, right? It put the call out and people decided they wanted to help our community. So that's been fantastic. A couple of years ago, we made changes to the Snow Angels and Garden Angels program. So we do support the community in signing up to Snow Angels Canada, and we try and help facilitate some of those things as well. We no longer do the volunteer matches and that kind of a thing. So, okay, 2A South Regional Transit. I think, okay, here we go. So that actually ended in March 2021 because the funding was completed for that, and then all partnering municipalities were able to provide feedback and input and decided not to move forward with that project. Information and referral services. So I didn't have the numbers in there, but we have them as of today, so I'm going to shock you a little bit. So information and referrals. So compared to last year, our walk-ins for this year, so we're looking at walk-ins, any meetings we're participating in, any training we participate in. So this year, we had 478 walk-ins and meetings and training. Referrals to local or regional programs this year was 488. The previous year was 489. So for the walk-ins in 2020, it was 353. So this year with it being 478, that's up a little bit. Our calls and emails, this will kind of give you an idea of the volume of response, information we get. So what we did is we actually went through all of our calls and emails and we kind of knocked 40% right off the bat, just for, you get emails, people responding to a poll you put out or a meeting request and that kind of thing. So we knocked off 40% right off the bat for that. So in 2020, our calls and emails, this does not include any calls or emails returned. This is just incoming to our office. So in 2020, we were at 19,731. Last year, we knocked off 30%. This year, we knocked off 40%, and we're at 22,784. So we do get a lot of requests for information, support. It's been really busy, but it gives us great opportunities to really showcase what is happening in our community. So that's just a difference of 3,053 for this year. Just the difference, yeah. Dementia-friendly community and community partners in action. So we were one of the founding partners with that. So that came about as a result of a grant that the Primary Care Network got from Health Canada, so $750,000. So we are one of 5 communities, I believe, that are connected, that are receiving some of that funding. So they hired a dementia-friendly coordinator and then did some training with local business. The Twiddle Muffs and Dementia Project came out of that. The dementia-friendly kits came out of that. So we kind of just partnered. You'll find that we often help link a lot of our organizations with the right people so that they can move forward with their projects. So a lot of our partnerships tends to be like linking people together as well. Again, community partners in action. So the dementia friendly project. So out of that came the need then. So the group formed Community Partners in Action Society. So they are actually their own society now. So they can apply for different pots of funding that say I couldn't apply for through FCSS because I'm municipal, right? So there's different parameters around funding. So through the Primary Care Network, on some of their staff, they formed that society. So some of the involvement, again, the Twiddle Muffs, Pass the Toque, the monthly calendars, dementia series. There's been a couple rounds of the education series, and it's been amazing, the response. We've had people from all over Alberta participate in that training as well, from Slave Lake to Edmonton. Yeah, lots of participation in that. Art from the Heart program is one of those programs that started, I want to say 4 years ago, and that started initially with just Wendy Evans and us at FCSS to just start offering something for individuals living with dementia. And that's kind of blossomed as well. Memory Cafe, that's one of their programs as well. The Age-Friendly Committee, so I'm going to let Sandy take over that one.
So in March of last year, we put out the call to businesses and community members to apply to be on the Age-Friendly Community Committee. And so we started that officially. We got all of the applications in. Council went through the applications, and we had our first official meeting in September last year. So we did have 3 meetings by the end of 2021, and we have now had 2 meetings this year so far. So far we're working on a community action plan, and we're kind of in those final stages. We have completed what our priority needs are moving forward for 2022, which I will share in a little bit. So we're just kind of working through those final stages. We are working with the Community Partners in Action Society with our Generations Legacy project that you guys might have seen advertised recently. So we have received $6,000 from the Health Canada seed money. So that will be going towards working with adults or seniors, some with dementia. We need to be inclusive of the dementia-friendly community. So we will be working in partnership, joining a senior in our community with another member of our community as an intergenerational project, and working on a Generations Legacy project to help them move their legacy forward to their family. We attended the spring registration session and the trade show this past weekend for lots of sharing of information, getting our name out there, letting the community understand what an age-friendly community is and how they can participate. My understanding is that this weekend went really well. There was lots of questions and interaction from the community about wanting to know what an age-friendly community is, so that was really great. And then we designed an infograph, which is a colorful little infograph on what is age-friendly. And again, just for an information purposes of our umbrella, and then what is it and how can an age-friendly community be beneficial to our municipality.
Thank you. Okay, so next, our Youth Positive Assets Coalition. So I chair that right now. So that started probably about, I want to say 5 years, 2017, yeah, 5 years ago. Started with just a conversation with Chinook's Edge and a few service providers. So that came out of that conversation. And since that, in 2020, February 2020, the Youth Action Committee was also started. And that has youth sitting at the table that actually plan and implement events that they want to see done. So we've, it's been a hard go because they had 2 meetings and then COVID hit. So everything was done on Zoom, so it was quite challenging. So we have an event coming up on Friday at the school, so we're hoping that's really going to open up getting youth back at the table and just more of that engagement. It's really hard to do when you can't get in front of them physically as well. But some of the things that they did do in 2021, they were still really busy. So I'm really proud of what that group has done. They planned Youth Week events. They've had Jackbox Games events. Instagram has grown now to, I think, 221 followers. We did 760 youth activity bags that were given to all students in the community, grades 7 to 12. Some of you may have been at the Hillside Vibes concert in September. They're actually planning another one for this year. That went so good. We did treats for the week for May and December, and that's been really positive. One of the things that they did as well was to do a donut day in the school and in December, and it's just about getting in front of the youth and trying to build relationships, right, and make youth action more visible. They did the coffee sleeves as well for mental health support during Youth Week, and those were put on cups in May and December through the Coffee Cottage and through Darkwoods as well. Kane and I did a presentation to the Rotary Club as well. The Rotary Club had given us some funding, so we just give an updated report and a written report as well to them. We had one individual go through the Skate Park Ambassador Mentorship Training Program. We did a youth engagement survey in August of 2021. We're still aggregating that data. That Fear Fighters did not happen. We ended up canceling, but we're offering another option at the end of April. So Youth Action Innisfil, so we also did a support card, just like a little business card that could be given out at any time we have a table at the school or anything that has some of those emergency numbers on there if a youth is feeling in crisis or just needs someone to talk to. We received funding this year from Charity Check Stop, St. Mark's Anglican, and Alberta Addictions Prevention as well. So we've gotten some funding to support us up till now. We're still waiting for word on a really large funding grant that we submitted. If we get that grant, that will be a total game changer, which will be awesome. So we'll see what happens with that, and we're excited to see if we do. That'll be really good. I'm looking forward to that. Lots more work, but it'll be great. April's a busy month, so coming up now, our youth action, we're doing a lunch and learn on Friday. And again, that's just wanting to engage with the youth at the high school to say, this is what youth action is about. Do you want to be part of it? Getting them involved in planning and implementing things that they want to see. They're hosting a intergenerational bowling day on April 20th. In partnership with the FRN, Family Resource Network, April 19th, they're doing laser tag. And then the roller skating is actually April 29th. That's an intergenerational event as well. YPAC will cover the rentals for roller skates for youth 13 to 24. So that piece, any other community members, I think it's a $10 rental fee. But anyone's invited to come out to that. The arena's working with us on that as well. Youth Week is coming up, May the 1st to the 7th, and we're going to do treats for the week again for that. We're still working on planning that. Innisfil Interagency Network. So we continue to meet on Zoom, had great engagement in 2021. A lot of individuals that would struggle to get here on a monthly basis due to travel time and things like that were able to be engaged with us. So we have about 39 agencies represented. Our email list is somewhere around 156. So anytime I forward things out to our interagency, it's kind of getting far and wide. We also, I have an Innisfil ministerial with our local ministerial as well. So we often will send applicable items out to them as well. Coalition work, so between Sandy and I, we are connected with some of these coalitions. Impact Central Alberta, I currently chair that right now. Central Alberta Rural Communities Coalition, Coordinated Response to Elder Abuse, and that is just 5 of our smaller communities. And then CAPRA, I've just reconnected with them, Central Alberta Poverty Reduction. This year, we've also had 2 new FCSS board members. Some of the things that we've also done in 2021, The Drive-In Festival in partnership with the tree lighting, so we had about just over 300, around 300 attend that. Sweet Conversations and Gingerbread Wars in partnership with the library. We actually changed our newsletter as well. So we used to have a 55 plus newsletter. We actually changed it to just a community newsletter, and it's really opened up a lot more opportunities to get more information out to general community, and their information as well.
And we made it in color.
And it's in color, yeah. So we actually distribute this through. We're also working with our outcome measurement trainer. So as you see, we're doing lots, but we want to really shore up what we're doing. So when we're reporting back to the province, we really have those numbers and that data to support it. So we've been working with our outcome measures trainer probably, 3-4 months for sure, to really get a good solid plan in place with this. And we really have a good solid reporting information that we can say to the province, you know what, the money that you're giving us, it's well utilized, right?
And I think with that, we also want to understand where our impact is in the community and where there might be gaps that can help us as we move forward over the next year or 2 years, think about where are those gaps and how can we be strategic about that.
Yeah, thank you. And if you can believe it, it's helping us figure out what not to do, right? So we're going, you know, like, oh, maybe we don't need to continue this piece anymore. Maybe that needs to go here, or maybe that needs to be done. So it's kind of really helping us take a step back and go, okay, do we need to be involved in that, or is that another organization? So, marketing, we're looking at how do we continue to educate our community on what FCSS does. Lots of times things are happening in the community, we're kind of often in the background. Our association thinks you need to be more, you need to toot your own horn more, they're saying, basically. So we need to get better at that. The community development piece, age-friendly piece we've talked about, the emergency social services we've talked about, YPAC we've talked about, community events. So up and coming, we have Volunteer Week actually coming up later this month. We're going to be making the link to the film The Great Disconnect available again to our volunteers and sending out a thank you through our email contacts and doing that this year. They've just actually released the funding applications. We didn't apply for funding for this part, but they're going to allow us to apply again in September. So if we wanted to celebrate Volunteer Day in December, we're able to try and access some funding. We haven't decided on that yet. Enhanced community partnerships. So you may remember that we partnered with Chinook's Edge School Division on the Flourishing Life Assessment. So they actually have staff right now that are administering those assessments to our students. After that, then with the developer of Flourishing Life model, we'll be figuring out what are some of the gaps that might be in the community with our children and youth, which will really help us even when it comes to our youth action plan, right? To really identify what are some of those struggles. Maybe we need to tweak some things or change some priorities there. Sandy and I participated in lots of opportunities for webinars and training this year as well. And we just continue to assess as things go along what our needs are. The PACE bus and PACE van. So I'm really happy to report the new PACE van is completed. We're just waiting for our delivery date. And I know Megan's working with the Royal Canadian Legion on that service agreement. The Innisfil Voluntary Community, I just mentioned that. We're looking at a 5-week group coming up in May or June as well, just to, again, build relationships in the community and just educate the community on resources and supports available. We're seeing more, domestic violence was an issue before COVID, but we're certainly seeing the numbers spike in our community. Domestic violence, sexual assaults, those kinds of things. So we just want to make sure we're being proactive and providing education and support around that. the local group, they're looking at doing that walk again in October. And then we're looking at how can we engage our business community as well in just making things visible from that standpoint. I chair, again, the Impact Central Alberta Coalition, and it just happens this year that our community will be hosting the conference this year. It's usually one big conference, so our planning team is in the process of planning that. Voluntary recruitment, we talked about that. Registration night, March and September, we attend that. Great Disconnect. Seniors Week. So Seniors Week this year, we're going to be doing the garden party again. I just actually talked to Anna from the village and figured out how that could look there in that space now. It'll look a bit different, but I think it's going to go well. And we're also looking at just adding on an extra event with a golf course, in partnership with a golf course. So, positive ticketing program we talked about. Interagency information fair. So on June the 16th at the Legion, our interagency partners are coming together to just showcase to the community what some of the programs and supports available through the interagencies that serve Innisfil. I think sometimes the community thinks, oh, well, we don't have that, but we do have a lot of those connections. So we've invited our partners to actually come and showcase their organizations and the programs they provide. In October, we're looking at doing an interagency partner appreciation luncheon. They've kind of hung in there and really been such a huge source of support for us whenever we've needed to do referrals. So we just felt it would be great to do just I don't want to call it a wellness day, but just a day to come together and say thank you and just express gratitude for their support as well. Community safety nets, that's a resource that we partner. Our local business community are very supportive of this initiative. And the books that we got this year was around bicycle and skateboard safety. With our new park, we thought that would be a great resource this year.
So where we're headed with Age Friendly, so as I said earlier, we're finalizing the community action plan. And once that's done, then we want to share that plan publicly. And part of that is, in order to be recognized as an age-friendly community, we need to share that plan publicly. So that's what we intend to do. The Generations Legacy Project, right now we're currently recruiting volunteers and participants that we have matched. We're hoping to get started in June and run the Legacy Project from June till December. The intent is to build relationships, long-lasting relationships within our community. So we're hoping that even though the project ends in December, that over the course from June till December, that they have built a relationship that will continue on, hopefully for years to come. We want to provide information and update to the public in the spring and the fall for the purposes of just being open and info sharing, transparency. So we are doing a full page ad to kind of talk about where Age Friendly has come so far and what are our projects moving forward. Collaborate with the town of Innisfil on current and future projects to ensure age-friendly considerations in everything that we do here. Attend the fall registration session for purposes of information sharing and community engagement, and then partner with FCSS for the Seniors Week event.
Is that all?
In a nutshell. In a nutshell.
Karen and Sandy, thank you so much for all you do. It's every time you come and do a presentation like this, it's just, I just go, wow. So thank you so much. And also, I don't know if you can, it's all right, I know Kate invited us prior to pre-COVID, we came to a Jackbox night with the kids, so if there's an opportunity, I think Councillor Harrison and I came and we had a fun evening. I'd never played Jackbox before, so it was a lot of fun. So I would say if there's any opportunity for council to be involved with things, please don't hesitate to send to CEO Becker, and I did that right, and he can send out to us. No direction. But yeah, it's pretty incredible what you do with everything, and we're grateful to have you. And as we were talking before, I think Innisfil is should all be pretty proud of what goes on in this community. Are there any questions, Councillor Bates?
Just a couple comments. Of course, with the COVID and the Zoom, changed so much. I did attend the last interagency, and it looks to me like Zoom works really well for that. That's just my observation. And in the past, I haven't heard recently, but the movers and groovers, they would sure like to get back to in person.
April 20th. It's getting back April 20th, so people are quite anxious. And both actually, so movers and groovers will be both and the Zoom option. The same with interagency. We're looking at having both options as well because we've had such a good response. So yeah, we're looking at doing that.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Karen, where do we find the Bits and Bytes e-newsletter? And that's the one where you're trying to recruit volunteers?
Yeah, we usually send it out through an email list that we have. And so if you were interested, we could add you to that list. And then we usually try, our communications will actually put that link in on our Facebook page as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody feel like they need a rest after that? Okay, we'll move on to 3.3, Director Jenkins and the community app.
Okay, so the community app has been on the radar for a little while, and we just wanted to provide an update and an opportunity for council to share some of their thoughts with respect to the app. Shelby's been working to reach out to various organizations to start to flesh out how we could develop such an app. So there was the identification of creating a community mobile app during the 2022 operation budget deliberations. So a general amount of $12,000 has been indicated for this project within the budget. Community apps generally serve multiple purposes and potential audiences, providing everything from general information, so community news, information about recreation facilities, trails, garbage recycling, and business directories, as well as events, so community events, important deadlines. We can have virtual tours of facilities and trail routes, program registration, those types of things. One of the big features of many of the apps is the ability to send push notifications, they call them, so messages that would pop up directly on your phone. These could be about snow removal, emergency cancellations, emergency info, those types of things. And some of them can be geolocated, so specific to people in a certain area, those notifications could go out. You can also set up your preferences when you install the app as well as to whether maybe you do want a notification to pop up every week that it's organics collection week or those types of things. The apps also provide a great opportunity for public engagement. Surveys, votes, comments, contact us, report a problem, those types of functionality can all be included on the app. As well, you can get into things like applications for licenses, permits, of functions, and then you can even get into more specific account information with some of the apps if you want to be able to access certain parts of your, for residents specifically, that they can access through the app. So we have looked at a variety of different apps with respect to, a lot of them have strengths in different areas depending on the sort of origin of the companies that have developed them. Even like our finance software, our GIS software, lots of these different companies have now developed apps. So some of them have strengths in certain areas over others, as well as the ability to be compatible with our current website. So that's been a major factor with talking with these companies is a lot of the information that's housed on these apps is connected to the website, so you're not having to update in two spots. If you have the community calendar on the website, that's what's populating the app. So that has
narrow the search a little bit, in that some of the apps would require us to either have a website through that same company, or to do a bit of an overhaul on the website in order for them to work with those apps. So that's been part of the process. For today, we're really just seeking some input and insights with council on priorities. If there's apps that you've come across, I gave a list through in the report of, I have about 10 different community apps downloaded on my phone right now, just to be able to go in and see what different functionality goes along with each one. I think one of the big things is that link to the website, or how it's updated, because some of them, they look really fancy, but then you go into the actual app and the information isn't current. So making it as easy as possible to keep that information up to date and accurate, that we're not having to update information in numerous different locations. So in terms of financial impact, I guess the budget is $12,000. Current quotes we've received are between $5,000 and $10,000 for sort of the initial setup, and then a $4,000 to $5,000 annual fee that includes updates and service that end of it. Yeah, so I guess that's just putting it out there. If council has seen any things, or if there are some components of this app that we think are the major features that the community is going to get the most benefit out of.
Thank you, Director Jenkins. Councillor Heistad.
I like this initiative. I think it ties really well with all our community development and the information, for example, using Karen and Sandy's conversation about everything that we're doing as a new council. We're not so new now, 6 months in, but I really think it's a great idea. And if I think of print media, where that's our, that's most of the generation is through our print media. I think $5,000 to $10,000 is fairly reasonable to pay, and then the upkeep around $4,000. Just as long as the technology, we stay up to date with the technology, and we can synchronize it with our website. I think it's an excellent opportunity. So those are my spot. That's my position. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I don't have any real input as to all those elements. They all like, but I think the app certainly looks like a good alternative to the sign that we were talking about way back. Even the maintenance, I think it's a good alternative.
Councillor Wing.
Just one question relative to the calendar and the calendar that's currently on our website. Is it completely maintained and kept up to date by town staff, or do organizations in the community have the opportunity to put their own information in? I'm just thinking that might be another selling feature for the community as far as this app is concerned.
Yes, so the community, and it would link with this calendar on the website. People can submit their own events to the calendar. We have been proactively doing it to try to populate it a bit, to get it, becoming a bit more of a place for people to go and check things out. But people can submit their own events. But yeah, we have been sort of propping it up the last few months.
Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. To Director Jenkins, I'm excited. The one thing, and I know you've pointed this out, is that once we have it developed, then it's the content creation and it's the upkeep, and the capacity of the administration as it is, it just that worries me a little bit. I know you all have a lot on your plate, and yeah, how do we make sure that if we're going to make this investment, although it's not a very large investment, that we upkeep it? Because I know there are a lot of really good apps out there, and the attraction for tourism, especially with what's happening in the future within Innisfail, I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to reach out. Also, I think it's the accessibility of it. So many of our seniors now, even iPads, things like that, they have access to it, so it's such an easy way to provide information. But like a website, like anything, if it's not being upkept, then we run into trouble. But, you know, everything that the strategic plan alignment, all 7 of those points, I think are exactly what we're looking for, and amongst others. So I think kudos on what you've done so far, and I look forward to seeing, you know, a little more details on which apps we will potentially be working with.
Certainly, I don't think I've ever got that many under the strategic plan alignment section in the report, so.
Yeah, I am very much in favor of this, Director Jenkins. Been hoping to see this for quite a while. So as far as how should it be focused, I would say everything that you have in the bullet points. Like the reported problem 311, would there be an extra, is that something extra? But didn't we have 211 at some time, or
So
was it
311 was just my example. That's
okay,
what it is. It won't be the same.
Gotcha, okay.
But yeah, that type of an idea where citizens can come in and put in their complaint or a location.
And I love the idea of the push notifications and the, you know, anything we can get people doing online. You know, it just makes it easier for people, and that's what people want to do. And I guess my one caveat would be that, you know, let's make sure that we work well with where we are at in the technology world today, even if that means, I don't know, having to upgrade the website or whatever. I mean, it's obviously not my area of expertise, but I don't want us to get something that, it's getting tied into kind of a old back-end website, and then 5 years from now it's kind of obsolete and stuff. So that would be one thing I would.
And that's part of that ongoing maintenance too, is all of our phones want to install updates all the time, right? And making sure that the app stays compatible with the current technology that everybody's working on.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's awesome. Anyone else? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, just hearing the discussion, one of the things that I would wonder about with the public input, that we have some type of control where you don't have the rant side of the rant and rave type information coming in. So just if people could use that, even if it's scheduled, they can still get an opinion in there with stuff. I don't understand the complexities of the event to the point that you guys would have to do it.
And it'll be a bit of an expansion. Our current website has the ability to sort of send comments, and then those get generated into an email. But this would, you know, help us get into a system, and then being able to track those, especially on a spatial basis too, because oftentimes it'll allow you to complain about this crosswalk or something over and over, that then you can look at those results and it would be clustered in one area that, okay, this is obviously where we're seeing a lot of those comments.
Do you want a motion just to accept this as information, or do you want that? Could I have somebody make that motion, please? Councillor Dunn.
Mayor Barkley will make the motion that council provide general parameters for the desired option.
That we just accept it for information.
Oh, that we just accept it for information. Okay, thanks.
That's perfect. Okay, anything further? No? All in favor? Great. Okay, thank you. We look forward to seeing what comes next. And then Director Jenkins, future capital projections.
Okay, so this was just another information item. We've had the comment from council a few times just about a list of capital projects and how we're going to start being able to visualize all the various demands and potential capital expenditures that have been discussed that are essentially over and above the town's historical average investment in the replacement and maintenance of core infrastructure. So again, just really providing an opportunity for council to reflect on the list, and as we are provided with the updated, or with the new strategic plan draft, hopefully in the coming weeks, that it can help us to provide greater clarity around these projects, and help us focus moving forward. So just if there's any questions about the list or any thoughts, but it's sort of a list I think we'll keep we'll keep adding to and adjusting as we receive various direction from council.
Thank you. I guess my only thought around it is some of it will also be creating income as well. So there's going to be some pretty good ROIs potentially on a couple of those items, and maybe we could add that in somehow.
There's the little star denotes on that
Yes.
are the ones that are potentially revenue generating
I just
in and
maybe-
of themselves, but yes, they are. They aren't all just straight expenditures.
Yeah, just wonder if we could maybe even put in an amount.
Yep.
Any questions, Councillor Bates?
Got a bunch. So, I don't know, I won't go in order of how they're listed, but one that comes to mind is when I look at the Dodds Lake, I have a feeling that with all of our other competition, and unless we get a grant, it's probably not ever going to happen the way it was originally painted. And even if we do get a grant, it might be a struggle to figure out how to deal with the grant and the additional dollars. But I do feel probably even in 2022, you're going to have to find some money for parking. I think once the ice goes out and we see that people coming, we're going to have to take maybe the area that was on the schematic and prepare it for some parking. It's just an opinion. I'm not sure where it would appear. Maybe it comes under one of the other ones, but ultimately I think we've talked frequently about the need for the additional Hazelwood access. I look at, I know we're taking some controlled lots and turning them into some houses, and that's great. We still aren't addressing our situation yet of affordable housing, and then maybe that comes into the joint venture, but it's too specific. You know, even the houses we're building, we'll see them at the end of this year, early next year. We have this need for rural housing of some type, and recently I discovered how expensive the duplexes are that we think are out there for seniors, etc. I was told that they were approaching $500,000, and I couldn't believe it, but I verified it on the weekend by going directly to the vendor. And $460,000 probably is not feasible for a lot of seniors to consider as a retirement duplex. And to that end, I think we might have to look back at something that cost us last year or the year before, potential some model in that southwest area. I look at the aquatic facility and the 10 million that's there, that is much less than a lot of the discussions that have occurred so far, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be. 10 is maybe what it should be, but we all have to try and remember that next time we're talking about, and as we spend the 600 going forward to define what we're doing, we have to keep that 10 in mind and adjust it up or down or whatever. And I was wondering if somebody could give me a Reader's Digest version of what industrial solar PV is, because I've never heard it actually explained. And is it some of the in-between lands that would be down there, or is it a dedicated area, or I just need a little bit of a, how many acres, just some kind of a vision of what it is.
Okay, so I'll start from the back and go forward. So yeah, the industrial solar PV, there's a piece of property within the southwest industrial area that will not be developable. It will remain in its state due to contamination. It's about 6.5, a little more acres. So we've been looking at what that would look like to create a solar facility as part of that development on those lands. So that's just some of the early conversation and what the initial build cost is in that $3 million range. I'll go back to, so the rec aquatic facility, we have 10 million in there, just because the most recent conversation we had talked about going through the IPD validation process, at a $20 million facility, but then it would be essentially paused until that 50% grant funding was reached. So that's where the 10 is indicated there. What else? So the Hazelwood emergency access, that's somewhat captured under that future school site servicing, because a portion of that, or part of that exercise, would be the extension of a roadway out of Hazelwood to C&E Trail. Yeah, I think that's all I've got.
Okay, so I'll just reflect that I don't view it as the emergency access as much as probably a future access, like that'll be used regularly. And then I do still think, I think we're gonna hear it within the next 2 months, dealing with the Dodds Lake parking. I just want to happen.
Just on the Dawes Lake parking, directly to Councillor Bates, administration is doing some preliminary work on that. We're expecting to come back with you with some information in the near future.
Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, no, I appreciate Councillor Bates ripping through the list there. How I'm looking at the list, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Jenkins, it's kind of, you're just giving us the scope of where the next strategic plan is, and that's how I'm looking at it. As to the Dodds Lake, I would agree with Gavin or Councillor Bates. It's going to be an issue, but I think that administration was already aware that we were going to try to deal with that, with, you know, a lot of our bylaw issues that we're dealing with. And no, I just appreciate all the numbers. For me, it's a refresher. That's how I'm looking at it. So thanks, Megan.
No further questions. I would have somebody, sorry, Theo Becker.
Great comments, Council. I think another way to look at it is there's only so much, you know, marbles in the jar, and Council's priorities and vision, communications is very, very important. As you invest in one, what is not being invested in?
Yeah. Councillor Monteros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. That's what I was going to ask Director Jenkins when you ask us to reflect deeply about this. Are there things that you want us to take off the list, or?
Eventually, there probably will, or they'll be lines that will be shifted, so to only go to those columns likely is not, you know, necessarily attainable in each of those years. But as you, when you get your funding for those individual projects, you know, which ones are we going to focus on first and foremost?
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Jenkins. Thanks for putting this all together. It's always a little bit startling when you take a look at it and think it's great to have a vision. But I do have I have a concern and I have a question. I think that because we've identified housing as being such an urgent matter within our community, and given that we've had conversations with other developers, not looking at that Woodlands lift station for 3 more years is a bit of a concern to me, and I think that's a lift station that we have the insuring on that needs to be done. I guess my thought is I could see that potentially being moved forward if the developers that are so busy developing in every other community in Central Alberta come to Innisfail and say, we're here if you'll get this darn thing done. And then seeing the stage go from 25,000 to 150,000 was a little bit of a shock. So, you know, I'm not sure that when I reflect back on the budget conversation and we talk about having a stage, I'm not sure that we actually anticipated having something quite that grand. But, and yeah, I think if we're looking, truly sincerely looking at something that large, I think then we have to have a bit of a larger conversation around the cost of maintaining and the risk and the liability and all that other stuff. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Councillor Bates?
Yeah, and I did have one last one. As we looked last week at altering the overall package of the train slash Alberta municipal project, now we see some of these other competing facets, and we haven't identified in here where some of this money is coming from, but obviously we'll find it. My question is, of the other 5 odd projects that we're in at, are we going to just proceed under the auspices that they were approved as a one lump project? Or do we look at those 5? Do they have to meet some criteria of a payback, or is there, just curious how that works, or what is our assumption of the longest payback that we're going ahead with?
So I guess my takeaway, and we can correct from the conversation last week with council, was that the package of energy conservation measures that Train had developed, that we would still pursue those activities as allocated within the capital budget. We would just be pursuing the project management component of that independently, as opposed to it being a lump contract with Train and AM. So we would still be going through and achieving those projects.
So I think I'm hearing that and agreeing. I'm wondering though that if, certainly there'd be a priority of the 5 that would make most sense to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you're just going to do them all, or just curious.
The Train reports, they provide the paybacks on the various measures.
And that didn't change?
No, that doesn't change necessarily with who's doing the work. So we would, the intent was to continue to achieve those projects.
Okay, because it is $1.1 million ish, I think. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will have somebody please make a motion to accept this as information. So Ms. Strauss?
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you. All in favor? Great, thank you. We will move on to 3.5, Director Kennedy and the Trail Master Plan update.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. So just to provide Council a quick update on the Trail Master Plan that was developed back in 2019. This document still continues to serve as a guiding document for us planning some of our projects. A number of the projects included in the master plan have been completed. Attached is the implementation update of the policies and actions of the project. Some of the primary ones are the sidewalk locations. We continue to look at policies to review. We did adopt the park donation memorial program policy, snow removal ice policy. We did a parks maintenance policy. We continue to work on the wayfinding program. This year we have the 30 program that we're to council with, along with the new app that we're looking at. Major projects include that were identified over the first 3 years. Majority of those have been completed, with only one, I believe, and that's the off-leash dog park lighting to be reviewed. We did start to get into the second priority projects, with some of the projects being done as part of other projects within the capital this year. As we continue to work on the item, we will be recommending to complete an update to the master plan in 2023. That this year. This includes pedestrian trail lighting, which would be an expansion to one of the sections in the plan. Pedestrian washroom facilities, including both seasonal and non-seasonal, for location and need. As well as we'd like to include a section within it for a trail evaluation and assessment for 2023. Some of the existing washroom facilities, or the existing washroom facility at Centennial Park, currently is not serviced to accommodate their use. For winter use, administration could review the cost to place and maintain a porta potty unit within the shelter that is at Centennial Park there. During the summer months, the town does install porta potties at the Ball Diamonds, the skate park, and at Dodds Lake. If you have any questions in regards to our implementation and the strategy going forward, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you. Questions? Councillor Hystad?
To Director Kennedy, I could bring up the Washroom stuff at Centennial Park, and I appreciate you mentioning that. It's just so highly utilized that even a porta potty there in the winter time, I think it'd be a good fix for us. I wasn't expecting the plumbing and all that to be open 24/7, but I do appreciate you bringing that forward. So thank you.
Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. To Director Kennedy, one of the things that we heard during our campaigning last summer and fall was a concern that we were going to spend too much time focusing on new facilities and not enough time on maintaining some of our older facilities. And one of the common comments was some of our paved paths and the quality of the asphalt and the maintenance of those. So not just walking paths, but being able to ride bikes or skateboards or whatever. So I'm just curious where that level of maintenance falls within our plan. Thank you.
So currently we haven't done an evaluation or an assessment of our paved trails. So that will be part of that recommendation in updating this plan would be a full evaluation of the existing trails. Because we do have a good, within this plan, we have identified disconnects and gaps as well as future, but it doesn't go into a lot of evaluation of existing. So that is one of our focus.
Yeah, I'll just put a little plug in for the path that goes out to the golf course on the north side of Highway 54. And I was talking to Jim Boomer on the weekend, and we were talking about, well, I was talking to Dwayne Simpson about it too, like how many kids would use that path to get to the golf course on their bicycles or whatever, and lots of people walk that path, and I know it's kind of deteriorated, and I don't know where it fits in the plan, but I just want to put a plug in for that path because I know it's well utilized and not in great shape. Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, I'm going to put a plug in for it too. Honestly, I think it's 30 years since it was actually built out there, because I can remember using it probably 33 years ago. That's a long time. So as to, I think I was kind of worried about Rick Gavin, so I'm just teasing you. But I think we should consider it, and who knows, maybe we're creative with, some fundraising or anything like that, maybe there's some paths and extensions where we're, there's some signage, we promote businesses, we promote families, we do that with the benches and all these other opportunities to promote our lifestyle, healthy lifestyle.
If I'm wrong, administration, but I think at some point, previous council, that path was abandoned, almost literally. And so not putting a plug in, we need to rejuvenate it if that's what we want to do. We need to bring it back because I believe it was abandoned.
Well, I also think even a little bit larger than that with our good partners, Red Deer County, and I think about extending that down to the river somehow. We've got that old chunk of highway that runs parallel to Highway 54 that's on the left-hand side of 54 when you go out to the river and back on on a bicycle, that would be cool. And yeah, I used to run that path out to the golf course and back from my parents' house, and yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
What's that? No, say it.
It was just a fun comment. Do you promise to run it again?
I will. You want to join me?
On my bike?
Winner takes all.
My money's on G.
Thank you.
If I may remember correctly, just to help with some of our planning as we go into 2023 budgets and out from there is maybe come back with kind of a highlight of what's coming for trail development. You can see what's next, and maybe it says it in here, Steve, but just Steve on the mapping, if council wants to switch some of those priorities up, that'd be their prerogative. Maybe you have a comment to that, but.
Yeah, no, for sure. Even as part of our phase 3 trail development, that we will be identifying kind of our trail networks, how we look at signage. So we can definitely look at revisiting and seeing how we can fit these in as that kind of plug to move forward, what trails and moving forward that way. So, yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It's not a plug, but the corner of 54th and 49th, 54th Street and 49th Avenue, just over here, that is a dangerous corner the way it's by the train tracks here. And it comes off of C&E Trail. There's a lot of traffic on that road. And if you're not careful, there's a blind spot. You got to sort of take about 30 or 45 degrees. And I guess the question that I have, maybe through to Director Leith here, we have accident stats probably on that corner somewhere. I'd really like to take, and I don't know if anything can be done at that corner to try and straighten out a bit, so that you don't have to come in and turn 30 degrees to the west to look down the street. Because I've seen 2 accidents in the short time I've been here, right on that corner, and it's due to a blind spot. So I don't know. Let's not belabor it, but I would like to have that identified somewhere down the road as take a look at that corner. Maybe I can bring it back at a council meeting to get on the council action control. Thank you, Mayor Barkley.
Right, thank you.
It's identified, May just pointed it out, 54th Street and 49th Ave as a priority project on the 35-year horizon. So we'll continue it on this list and be identified.
Thank you. Should have read the priority 3 project. When do they become priority 1? Thank you, Director Kennedy.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing further, I will please ask someone to make a motion that we accept this as information.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Great, thank you. And next we have Director Kennedy, Recycling and Organics Collection.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. I'm sure everyone's excited about the recycling coming up here. So yeah, back in 2019, we did do the solid waste collection program and changing it to automated for garbage and organics, with the recycling staying as a manual collection. The funding for the new carts came from the General Capital Reserve, with a transfer of $34,000 each year from the solid waste revenues going to pay that balance off in 2029. This past year, we did go to our current service provider, E360, to provide us with a quote to change the recycling pickup from manual to automated. This would reduce the pickup cost per household by 60 cents, which would be a savings of approximately $19,000 per year for collection. The cost for the new carts, including assembly and delivery, was just over $223,000. The solid waste reserve is currently at $163,704. So if the remaining funding was to come from the general cap, this would increase the payback, assuming we keep it at $34,000 to 2029. Every year we do a quarterly survey of 400 houses that is conducted since 2029. 40 actions. Also, the cart usage in the winter, from November to May, was 24% and 47% in the summer months. Results also show that the carts are approximately only 16% full on the average. Some of the options we're looking at or could be looking at for adjusting the organics collection to maximize the service. One would be to reduce the winter organic collection to monthly. This would provide an approximate savings of $18,000 per year. As well, reducing the summer organics collection to bi-weekly. This would provide an approximate savings of $109,000 per year, or approximately $3.29 per household. In the solid waste bylaw, one excess cart can or may be provided to a resident at no charge if requested, but there is within the bylaw an additional $15 service charge that would be added to their monthly bill. It is anticipated that the metric tons of recycling will increase from the above changes, which will increase the cost of disposal for recycling, as it is approximately $18 per metric ton higher than the disposal for garbage. The actual cost is unknown this time, but would be able to be reported back in the yearly waste update. If council would like to proceed with either or both of the revisions to the recycling and organic collection, administration would come back with a request for decision for the change, as well, and possibly amendments to the solid waste bylaw, and a public communication strategy would be provided at that time as well. So I'll take any questions in regards to organics and recycling.
Thank you, Director Kennedy. But when does the weekly organics start and end?
It starts on June. It started June.
Okay. I guess my question to you, maybe you can find out what the added cost, but I would like to see weekly organics collection start much sooner and go a little bit later. Like I think even now, people are out in the yards, and you fill those things up, and then you can't do any more yard work for 2 weeks. So I would like to see us even pull that back into April, mid-April, say. And I know even in the fall, I was getting comments from residents. You know, they were still doing a lot of yard work, but we started to do the bi-weekly. So same kind of thing, right? So I don't know if you could bring that back to us at some point. And I'm all for moving it to once a month in the winter time. I don't think those bins are used very much at all in the winter time for sure. But any comments, questions from anyone? And I guess maybe we can just keep educating people. You know, we've got the 18 metric tons charge that's added, but you know, maybe if we can keep educating our residents and reducing the waste on it's going to the landfill. And, oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Bates. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Kennedy. Just a general comment too, as I think about this year being the year of the garden, and we've been having that conversation. I wonder if, from an educational perspective, if some of our community partners like the Garden Club could help us share some of that messaging, because I agree. I think the education component is critically important. The other piece that I'm wondering about, though, is if it's possible for homeowners to request smaller bins. In Red Deer, I know they've, especially in areas that are highly populated with seniors and even singles, but seniors especially, they have the bins that are 2/3 or maybe even a half the size of the large ones. Those large bins in the wintertime are a real struggle for some people to move around. So it's just a question that I've been wanting to ask for a while. Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, appreciate Councillor Wing's comments. Just for clarification, the 18 per metric ton differential, that's not recycled, that's the compostable charge difference, is it? Organics.
So that's the recycling cost versus the garbage cost.
But we're not talking recycling as a little green open bin, we're talking the organics, are we?
So the recycling cost is $95 a metric ton.
The little green bin, the little green box?
Yep.
Okay. And what is the difference for the organics and the that some of the time. No, I just try to keep them all straight.
Yeah, it is a bit higher than the garbage still, I just don't know the exact amount.
I thought the garbage, the waste was 50, if I recall. 'Cause you gave that to us another time, like it was 50, 65, and then
And then 90.
90 or something, yeah. I wrote it down someplace. Okay, nothing else? Director Kennedy?
I guess if, just for discussion purposes, is there any interest in regards to the recycling and going automated? I guess just to get council's opinion on that, just for firm direction.
Why don't we go around the almost full table here and we'll see what everybody thinks. So Councillor Harrison, would you like to go about automated recycling with the blue bins?
Those are the little green boxes?
Yes, changing from the green to a blue bin.
Oh, a blue bin. Oh, yes. I would like to see that, yes. I know other municipalities have that, and it seems to work quite well. I don't know what the costs might be, but I would, I think they're forecasting maybe climbing on our winds tonight. There's going to be garbage all over town, so I think in the efficiency, I would certainly support the blue bins with the cost analysis. Director Kennedy.
Thank you. So Councillor Heistad, we're just going around the loop here to see if we're in favor of moving forward with the automated recycling bins as opposed to the little green boxes.
Yeah, I think it's I just jumped into this conversation. I think it's a win-win for us. I think we've evolved from those, and I'll call it the green bins that have been around for probably 8 years, and there's shit flying around, pardon my language. There's stuff, tonight's going to be a gong show, so you're going to have garbage all over. So, yeah, let's do it. I think you're going to have citizens tick off that we're going to pay some extra costs here and there, but I know that it's doing the right thing. Thank you.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Buckley. I'm for it as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dunham?
Absolutely. And if I'm looking at it correctly, the long-term costs after 2031 will level out, so we'll have a savings after that. May take a few years, but all in all, I think it's a better program. So,
Councillor Wing?
Yes, I would echo my colleagues' support. I wonder though, because these bins are so much larger than the little boxes, if it's necessary for a weekly recycling pickup, or if we could help minimize the cost by going to bi-weekly on them.
Hard to say, probably is for some. And others not so much. Councillor Bates?
I would be in favor too, especially from the aspect of the wind problem that we do have. The one thing I wonder about, I adapt, and if I get a big pile of cardboard, I haul it down to the transfer site. But do you size your bin for every day or for that odd time? Like, those are the things that would have to come back to us. And it is getting to be a busy street. You do see in my neighborhood some people with the green boxes. They throw them on their driveways or on the sidewalk, and then they put the bins out in the street because they have to be in order for the machine to pick it up. So all that stuff has to be figured out, but anything to stop I live right at the bottom, and actually a lot of it blows right into Dots Lake. It's really sad that it does. And we do need to capture that recycling that gets blown around.
Yeah, and there's probably an option potentially down the road where you can chip those bins, right? And then people would pay by volume. So people who aren't using them as much are paying less. So maybe we'll look at that someday. And well, I know I put my stuff out maybe once a month, so other than the organics bin in the summertime, but somebody else needs 2 bins every week.
So, and just to clarify, so this would not be an increase to the monthly charge, so.
Okay, do you know, Director Kennedy, when that would be in service? Did that,
back to council with regards to, some timeframes into getting the carts and trying to roll this out.
Yeah, great. That's awesome, great. Okay, I'll have someone please make a motion to accept this as information. Councillor Wing. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And we will welcome, no, we won't. We're going to welcome CEO Becker to the meeting now. Talk about the integrated project delivery. I'm sorry, did you want to?
Sorry?
Would you like Manager Leith to come up and change spots, or because he's been sitting for a long time? But
He's going to stick around for the camera as well.
okay,
so.
perfect. Okay, okay. Sit down. Okay, CEO Becker.
It's comfortable. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just want to talk to you about the integrated project delivery process. Certainly encourage Director Kennedy to chime in. So just recently, the town administration pulled in a IPD coach. We met with the coach recently. The coach is coming before you in early May to talk about IPD and the project. In the operation, we understood the IPD process with council vision or established council's vision associated with the Recreation Aquatic Center project. It is back in January, the administration through Director Kennedy brought a report to council, went through the reports, and I'm trying to understand how you would see that, especially as new council, is because you missed all the conversations really to establish those documents. So the idea is this process will help you reestablish and establish what that vision is with the current information, and determine if other information is required. So that is confirmed within the process. At the February 28th meeting, administration provided council with the differences between design, bid, build, and the IPD process, and where you approved the process to move towards utilize IPD part of this process. Council decided that IPD provides high cost certainty, lower risk, full teams accountability and collaboration, but requires a greater resource commitment by the town and initial investment to complete the validation phase, or in other words, the schematic phase. And that was pulled from Director Kennedy's report back to you. And why I'm saying that is this process has been initiated based on that direction. Part of that process, I'll let Steve speak to it, is moving ahead to develop the team. The team involves, of course, town administration, and it's an ongoing, quick process. This is not wait for a council meeting process. This is weekly and then some process until anticipated at the end of December. What the initial phases would be, of course, pulling in the desired architects and the general contractor, of course, getting council educated at the same time. So RFPs have gone out, and I'll let Steve get into more of the technical actions that have taken place and the projected proposed schedule. But because we have not provided that opportunity for you to be educated on the IPD process in itself, and this action is already moving forward, we want to make sure we communicate what is going on all the time. But we want to make sure we're not getting too far ahead of council. And I'm admitting we are getting ahead of you based on design, and that is because we need to get this rolling. But for what I hear, and Stephen talked about your role with the architect and the general contractor, but again, RFPs are moving out. You're part of the selection or ratification of those important team members, and that education pieces will come to you in about a month. So I'll just stop there. Steve, do you have anything you want to add in on some of these processes?
No, I guess it's pretty clear on kind of where that's going. The intent will be, maybe second come to you in regards to a good clarification again on the process. What is IPD? What is our schedule? Get into more detail. And then at that time, we'll also be coming to you in regards to, we'll be very close to having that selection of the architect. So give you an update, who submitted, which direction we're going, as well. In that meantime, we'll also, by that time, have the general contractor RFP out. So a lot of things kind of just continue to roll and evolve. By the time we get a full team in place and really start validating, the intention is to have the programming, the actual footprint of the building clarified, and then the validation in regards to site selection and all the details, that'll happen through probably September, October, November, and come back to you with a full report.
Great, thank you. Question, like when you get into the design validation, do you pull in user groups into part of that process, or not so much?
Part of that programming process, so before the validation report, we'll be looking to reevaluate the user group meetings that we did have in place, and really getting comfortable and making sure council's comfortable with that process before we get into validation.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's great. Heard a story last week on somebody that, very familiar with this process, and it was a structure that was being built in a neighboring community, and they were looking at spending $500,000 to put this particular unit into the building. And when they had the team around the table, somebody said, well, what are you using it for? And, well, this, and, well, do you need to spend $500,000 just to do that? And the answer was no. So this process that they use, this saves that organization $500,000 by not making a mistake right off the bat. So yes, there's a little more money up front doing it this way, but considerable savings down the road potentially. So. Any questions about this? Looks good. It's exciting. Councillor Wing.
Can I ask a question, please? CAO Becker, I'm curious, in thinking back to our recent conversation on our capital projections, and now this, and this is fabulous. I also wonder about the opportunity for some work to be done around a feasibility study relative to raising the money that we need. And so, if, raising money beyond just grants, but I mean, if we're actually going to put together a program where we're inviting businesses or people to make donations or to become sponsors, or what all of that looks like, I just wonder if we can avoid getting to that drop dead date in a year that says, now we don't know what to do. We've done all of this work and now we have to stop, and now we have to start thinking about where the money comes from independent of or in addition to the grants. So I just wonder if there's been a conversation around any feasibility study work.
Remember, Councillor Wayne, not so much. The idea goes back to the listing of $10 million. So council made it very clear about one funding source, and that would be grant dollars. But what is it that would be funded? So in order to get sponsorships or to get external funding, it's often the best way to do it when you have something to deliver within a sponsorship program, versus saying we need $10 million for our rec aquatic center. So the idea is to really work hard to establish your vision, but also move into that validation or schematic design, and to see where that plays versus all the other priorities that are currently on your list. So, it's, I don't think I'm answering your question, Councillor Wing, but we have not gone into full detail of how this project would be funded if you wish to proceed. And there has been experiences through the discussions that Drayton Valley, I know Steve and Megan are having in that conversation. They stopped their process. They went, achieved their validation, then they stopped until the appropriate timing and funding was available. I can't remember the timing, but it's several years that occurred in that time period.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I will get somebody to please make a motion to accept this report as information.
I'll make that motion to accept this report as information.
Councillor Hystad, all in favor? Okay, now we'll automatically about Centennial Park.
So I've been asked to come and update council and provide some information on some of the background and history with regard to some of the antisocial behaviour and complaints in and around Centennial Park. So municipal enforcement continues to work with operations and RCMP to develop proactive measures to improve the management of this community space. Back in January 2018, a delegation to council by local residents regarding frequent antisocial behaviour witnessed in the parking lot. Generally, this was referring to stunting of vehicles in that parking lot. The delegation requested the town to install a security gate. At that time, it was cost prohibitive. An alternative solution was proposed in respect of security cameras, which were installed in May 2019. In 2020 and 2021, repeated complaints from a resident in Napoleon Meadows resulted in relating to garbage, loud noise, gatherings of youth, stunting, speed limit violations, and threatening behaviour. March of 2021, a survey was conducted by phone residents. My sense of major is that the individual was referring to in and around the parking lot, and those concerns were relating to crosswalk visibility, noise, and garbage in the parking lot. So actions taken, the installation of security cameras in the parking lot in May 2019. The use of static and mobile speed signs for data collection so we could get more of an accurate picture on what the speed limits and where they were occurring. Installation of permanent garbage cans on the east side of the parking lot with improved signage relating to garbage, signage relating to security monitoring via the cameras, installation of a stop sign at the exit of the parking lot, joint force operations in relation to speed and enforcement continues to be made on a regular basis. Camera upgrades were made last May to assist in vehicle identification, and this was because although the cameras were taking pictures of people stunting when we received complaints, the actual clarity of the plate wasn't good, so we made some upgrades to the cameras to assist in obtaining that information so we could lead to laying charges on those people. We continue to use the security cameras when complaints are submitted as an investigation tool. The cameras have assisted in the RCMP in the assault investigation and provided evidence in relation to stunting activities in the parking lot where charges have been laid. The camera information and viewing ability has been made available to RCMP members who have an app on the phone. So if something's occurred, they can refer back to it and rewind back as well. Service level impacts, continual focus in this area as community peace officers move into the summer schedule, which will also cover evenings and weekends with an opportunity for joint force operations with RCMP, including bike patrols, traffic enforcement, and positive ticketing relating to youth engagement and activities. Just one thing to note, we did this year from Capital purchase a new radar camera which gives greater range than the old one, which was more than 25 years old. So this can actually pick speeds up at distances up to 1,000 meters, so we can not be seen when we're doing those monitoring pieces for the traffic enforcement side.
Thanks for the warning. Yeah, it's a bike rack, Councillor Bates. Question, Manager Leith, I mean, garbage is just ongoing. You know, people dumping out their ashtrays. There was actually on Sunday a pink chair that somebody dumped off in the parking lot. I'm guessing a lot of this activity is happening at nighttime. Like, what about a gate? I don't remember really having a conversation about a gate, man gate or anything, but do you think that may be a solution where we have that gate shut at 11 o'clock at night, because I still see, you know, comments, people complaining that live in that area of speeding and noise and.
I think we continue to be proactive in that area. The resultant gate, I think, potentially could cause restrictions on people using the park out of hours, people who are on shifts. Some people get up early, take the dogs out, all those different pieces, like having a parking lot that's accessible. Keep people on the permanent garbage cans that were installed from chatting with the operations and guys, that has seen a reduction in that. Can we continue to improve it? I believe yes, we can. The sign we placed quite recently, exit to the parking lot, means that we've got a greater opportunity to enforce, and also multiple offences if people are blowing through that stop sign and stunting.
Thanks for that warning too. Councillor Hyston.
Thanks, Manager Leith. I guess, well, I'm the guy that brought this forward, right? So I guess my comments would be, sometimes when I read a report like this, and being on council previously, first thing I want to do is commend you and the bylaw officers for the work that you are doing and have been doing in the past number of years. I remember sitting here and we wouldn't be ticketing anybody. And that's the truth. There was barely anything going on, and we made a drastic switch in the community to have a couple officers, and then make sure that we're, you know, that presence is there. So I do appreciate the work that you and your officers do. For me, when I look at the report, sometimes it's the data, like how many tickets are you giving out, specifically that maybe it would help us as councillors getting those complaints. We know, we have an idea of where, you know, how many people are getting ticketed. What I see, and I would agree with you with the gate, I think that would restrict our residents. I see a lot of, I'll be out at 5:30 in the morning, and you've got two cars there, and actually the individuals are going up to the door. And I don't know, and I haven't seen the security cameras, like I haven't seen that or asked to see what it's like to visually see those or identify those vehicles. But I think you probably could use a couple more cameras as you enter in on those two poles on your right hand side, but I don't know. I haven't seen the camera detail. And as to the garbage, when the article went out, the pigsty article, it did get better in some ways. I think you may have had, you know, I know there was a report on one car, couple cars stunting and doing some, you know, bad behaviors, and that's my perception of it. But I do see, you know, those big blocks that you have in front of the garbage cans. You got big trucks moving those every once in a while, like young people are moving those big pieces of concrete. And because I sit on the policing committee with Councillor Maceros and CEO Becker, I see there's an opportunity for us to educate the public, to call things in. So I look at this as twofold: as not only myself as a councillor and us sitting around the table to help our public, to help the public call in, but also the policing committee and some of the work that we're going to do in the near future. I see that working hand in hand. So it ticks me off, but I think we really need to have a focus, a community focus on what's going on, as well as I'm going to wrap it up. I think the speed in our community is too high, and I said it months ago. I think that we need to look at that and look at those options of reducing speed. But I'll let you fire away at me. Thanks.
No, fair comments. We do rely heavily on complaint-driven to enforce through those channels. Probably our success rate up until this point has been around that 50%. Once those reports come in of the stunting activities. However, what I will say is when those charges were laid, those individuals were what we would say frequent flyers, and once enforcement took place, they didn't come back. And historically, we found that they're younger people looking for those spaces to go and carry out those activities. We'll continue to do that. Whether it's, you know, we go out there and proactively encourage people to, if they see these activities, to let us know, and we can review these cameras, because we don't have sufficient time in the day when we come in after the weekend to go through 72 hours of camera footage. We rely heavily on that complaint-driven piece, and that's a message that hopefully you can assist us with. Obviously, that sometimes leads to the potential for vandalism to those cameras as well. Is the individuals who are popping there on those couple of occasions to do that activity until we actually get a complaint about them, we can get them. If people are up to nefarious activities and know that there are cameras there, they'll either go somewhere else, or the potential is to get some vandalism on that.
I'll let you go.
No, I actually have a question for you, Councillor Heistad. Like on the police committee, is that something you've talked about as communication? Like, are the RCMP looking at putting out more communication about calling in? Because we all see comments, and I just want to say phone. And I think people are reluctant because, I don't want to bother somebody over this, but if they would just phone, and the RCMP tell us that all the time.
Yeah, we're doing our survey with the public. I think half our battle is making sure, how do we communicate that and educate people actually to call in. I was one of those people that didn't believe it. And then I started calling into the RCMP 15 years ago. You know, you got young kids, you're a little more understanding of what's going on in your community. And I think that how we should work with the committee, the police committee, is have a bit of a communications plan with our survey, and looking at that opportunity to connect with residents. I think that my intent wasn't to say peace officers aren't doing their job. My intent was, how do we make it better, and how do we include the community? I do see it's an education for Innisfail, and it'll probably take a few years before things get better. We'll see it get better. That's how I'm looking at it, Mayor Barkley. I did want to say another thing, though. I do think that our signage could be new signage in that area would help. And so I'm thinking of Dodge Lake or Napoleon Lake, but I'm also thinking about our comments today about Dodge Lake is having that signage. And I was actually kind of curious. I was looking at the bylaws 1440 in our computers here, and the last time I know the littering bylaw, I think it's $150, right? I think that's what I noticed on our computers. Am I correct if littering is $150, or am I out?
You challenge me if it is on.
Okay, I'm challenging you. It was 2006 when that bylaw was passed. So what I would like to see is us review that bylaw 1440 and have really good signage, and actually be a community that really actually penalizes people that are throwing out their garbage. And on I guess my last comment, and it's not to be funny, but I see dog owners that have blue bags, and I see the odd poop. People pick up their dog shit, and it drives me nuts that they can't find the garbage can. They'll pick it up, but they'll hold on to it for so long, and then they throw it out. And I think if we're going to help our community, is educate and then fine them appropriately. So, thanks.
Just in response as well, we are currently we are working on a draft community standards bylaw, which littering is in, and the fee schedules have been adjusted in those. That'll hopefully will come to council in short time.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, just comments. I walk that area every day, and I think since the pigsty article, I've paid particular attention and think it's been pretty good, and have had people tell me they think it's gotten better. So maybe it's just a matter of that focus. We actually have the luxury in Centennial Park of having the cameras, and of course, the same activity can occur all over this entire town, of speeding or stunting or littering, and it's just, it's something we have to keep working on and trying to get everybody's mind in that frame, and then hopefully the other person sees somebody and catches the plate and makes a complaint, because there aren't cameras in all those other places. But yeah, those are just my comments. I don't think we need to do anything hardware like a gate, that sort of thing at this point. I think we've made great improvements, and whatever we can do through the committee and the public surveys and ongoing enforcement, that you're still going to have that person that dumps whatever at a red light. It's going to happen.
Yeah, Sunday was horrible. The garbage was horrible. There was ashtrays that had been dumped along the east side. There was the pink chair. There was marshmallows. Somebody had strewn a bag of mini marshmallows everywhere. Like, it was brutal. In fact, somebody said to me, you can offer my services. They said, well, tell CEO Becker I'll work an hour a day and I'll come down here every morning and clean up. So, of course, they were looking for pay. Not volunteer, but anyway, it was not good. And, it's hit and miss. Sometimes it's great, and other times it's not so great. So
again, the ask would be is make us aware if there's certain times of the day we can go back, and hopefully there's potential that we can identify the vehicle, and certainly even if there's no potential for enforcement, we can also pay them a visit and say, look, it was noted. Don't be coming doing that into the community.
I would take this as notification that Sunday morning is not good. So if there's some activity from Saturday night. Anything else? Thank you very much, Manager Leith, for this. And have somebody make a motion, please, to accept this as information.
Mayor Buckley, I'll make that motion. The council accepts the report as information.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Dunham, all in favor? Great. I'll just finish off the agenda with 3.9, the industrial lands, and just so people are aware, and I know I sent a short communication out last week to council that we did have got the green light to go ahead on the industrial land development that we've been waiting on. So that is good news, and I'm sure that CEO Becker and his team will bring more forward. I think we're going to talk a little bit about it in camera, some more of it, but I think that was really good news. We've heard it's been a long time. So did you want to see something, Councillor Bates?
Sure. I guess that when we reflect back on the capital, we've got $5 million that we can get started on.
Okay. Anyway, I will carry on. We'll go into roundtable discussion. 4.1, Councillor Hystad.
Thanks. I think the big one was covered off, so thanks to Manager Leith. Also, looking forward to Wednesday. We get a meeting with Red Deer Catholic, and I want to thank Councillor Harrison for doing that age-friendly meeting. He had passed off my notes, so, and no, I think it's going to be a good week. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Markley. I want to get to the foundation, and we passed the auditor's report, and make a long story short, actually the foundation's in really good shape. They're possibly just clearing some surpluses in different areas, so that's encouraging. We're preparing for the strategic planning session that's going to take place on May the 5th, and I won't be able to attend. I won't be here, but I passed it on to my colleague, Councillor Wings, and any information that comes for that planning session, I'll make sure that the CAO and her staff get it to Councillor Wings so she's prepared. Autumn Grove is full, which is good. God's Lake Manor is at 88%, and there's 11 units in there that need some renovation, and administration has applied for government funding to conduct that renovation, so we should hear something. And in Autumn Grove, there's some issues around the water and the softening of it. That water softener now has been installed and working quite well, so the residents are really happy with how that's turned out. And there was one thing that just in the general conversation and that came out when the CAO, Carla, she said, our vision is, and it never struck me, but I marked it in quotation marks, a prime place to live. And that'll be, maybe that's something that you can talk about. Councillor Wing at strategic planning, is that sort of, Nike's got the check mark, maybe the Parkland Foundation is prime place to which and live. So, but just a comment, that's and coming up, this will be my last meeting for, I think, about a month, so, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Went to the policing meeting to speak with Councillor President. I thought Jason was going to talk about it a little bit. I hope I've got my notes right here. So there's going to be a town hall coming up in a couple of weeks to talk about the outcome of the survey. And there's something happening also in terms of the Alberta policing issue. Yeah. And there, we heard about, I'm just going to go on. Went to the trade show, spent a couple hours there. I thought it was very successful. Learned a lot about, saw people learning a lot about the recycling. So I think that was a really good idea. And I joined the Understanding Hate and Violence. There's 3 sessions of that, so I'll be attending my first one this week. MPC was canceled this week, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week was fairly quiet for me. I just had one meeting, and that was the Canada Day Event Planning Committee through the Community Services Standing Committee, and it's going to be a wonderful event. I'm really hoping that a lot of the community will get out for it. It's a long weekend this year. July 1st falls on a Friday, so we'll be having the fireworks on a Thursday and lots of stuff going on Friday, so going to need a lot of volunteers for that. Other than that, this is my last in-person meeting for 2 weeks. I'm heading off on vacation, but I will be on Zoom, and look forward to coming back and seeing everybody in a few weeks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, last week was a bit of a quiet week as well for me. My activity actually consisted solely around the trade show. So Friday I spent time helping with the setup, and then participated with the town booth on Saturday afternoon and assisted with teardown after that. The Chamber Board meets next week, so I will bring more of an event update back to you at a future meeting. It felt like people were, exhibitors seemed to be optimistic about the responses they received from the attendees, and the attendees seemed to be very happy to be out and about. So I think the spirit of the event was good. Thanks to each of you who came and attended and supported the town booth, and I look forward to hearing any feedback or comments that you may have for me that I can take back to the chamber. And then this week, I'm looking forward to our meeting with Red Catholic School trustees and administration, and I've registered for an Energy Futures webinar this week, as well as the Extended Producer Responsibilities virtual meeting on Friday.
Thank you, and Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I put in a couple hours at the trade show as a shift, and it was so much fun. I came back the next day to take in the rest of the show. No MPC this week, and yeah, I have the Catholic school Wednesday. Where is that? Legion. Thank you.
Okay, and this past week went to the Equus AGM. CO Becker also attended. Was at the trade show on Saturday. I thought it was a really fun day. Lots of positive comments. Also taking part in watching the Resiliency Project, which is a 3-part series on racism and extremism and all sorts of things going on. It's put on by the City of Edmonton. Registered as well for an Energy Futures Lab presentation. I believe that's tomorrow. And then I just want to bring up some things. So this Friday, we have extended producer responsibility. I think you all got an invite from Kara to attend a session here at 1:30. So that's something we need to get up to speed on. There's 2 sessions, one in and one in June. Also, I sent an email, I think Leroy also sent it out to everybody as well, on the 18th, our possible futures session that Shanos is putting on from 8:30 to 1 p.m. So if you want to let Kara know ASAP whether you'd like to attend that, she can register, and I know there's limited space. And then spoke with CEO Becker today. So last term we had a get-together, pre-COVID of course, with realtors and developers out at the library, community room. And I would like to see us do that again. I think the timing would be really good where, we could do a presentation about what's going on in town. We can talk about how our processes work as far as awarding listings and that kind of thing. So there's nobody has misinformation about that. And just, I think, talking about the town and all the great things that are happening. And so if you're in favor of that, if everybody's around kind of end of, say, the last couple of weeks, May, early June, is everybody here at that time? Maybe we can get some dates and figure out what suits everybody. You okay, CEO Becker? He's cringing. And then just before council this afternoon, we had an email from Red Deer Polytechnique about a tour with council. So again, I think we can leave that with Kara to coordinate with them, and maybe again like June, early June in May, give us some time here to get things in done. And then also one last thing. Equus tour. So I met with Chairman Fox today, and they're back with doing tours, or welcomed us to come for a tour again. So Kara, if we could coordinate that with Nicole over there, and I don't know, their board may be there as well, so it would be a tour of the facility, and then maybe some kind of a brief discussion or get together, whatever, just kind of get to know each other a little bit. So you want me to keep going? No, I'm just kidding. I'm done. Okay, so we'll go into correspondence and information. So one thing I just want. Sorry, go ahead.
Markley, I don't mean to interrupt and don't mean to. The very first letter of correspondence, actually, it's when we're quite quickly, don't have a lot of information on the response from the government regarding the industrial park, but as that information comes out, I just want to put it to you, council, and previous council or councils on the effort for the lobbying and sticking with that, so that communications and really pushing on what you believe in with other elected officials, and it really pays off to have those engagements. So I just want to commend you, council, and previous council.
Never say never, right? Just keep swinging the bat. Kara, can you move down to the RPAP information? So in this, there's a proclamation, I think it was, June, end of May, June. So we can take a look at that down the road. There's also lots of activities going on. I have a meetings, community partners in action. I'm a volunteer with that group. So we have a meeting next week, and we'll bring some of this up because I imagine it's PCN and Lisa Fox from RPAP's also a part of that. So I'm sure there'll be some activities going around, and we can kind of see where everything fits. But maybe what we can do is look at the proclamation at a future meeting towards May. And I think there's also the other one that Councillor Harrison brought forward from Economic Developers Association, and that's beginning of May 9th. That starts the Economic Development Week. Is there anything else in there, O'Hara. Okay, so can I have somebody accept this as information, please? Correspondence. Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Perfect. And upcoming events. Okay, we'll just have somebody accept this as information, please.
I'll accept that as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, great. Then we'll have somebody make a motion that we go in camera.
I'll move that we go in camera.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor?